government's vision of becoming self-sufficient in the production of feed for the local livestock sector by 2025 has been given a boost with the reported success in the growing of millet in the TACAMA savannas by the local conglomerate TACAMA Gold. Currently, TACAMA Gold is harvesting approximately 1,300 acres of millet, which it planted as a cover crop until the next crop of corn and soybean is laid down in just over a month. Managing Director, Bounty Farms Limited, one of the local investors in TACAMA Gold, David Finance, is reporting that the consortium is very pleased with the outcome of this crop of millet, which has done well even though there is an ongoing drought. He explained that it was because of the extremely dry conditions that the company decided not to take a chance on planting corn and soybean, and so millet was the crop of choice. And there was another crop planted too, another first, sesame seeds.
So last year, remember what would have happened is we had a period of really dry weather, which still continues to this day, and we didn't want to take the risk of planting more soybean. So instead, we planted two different crops that we'd never done before. One was millet, and the other was sesame seed. The millet we planted 1,300 acres, 530 hectares, and those crops actually need less water. So that was the main reason, and they're shorter crops. They're only 60 days to maturity. And so that really worked out well for us because we were able to test something, and at the same time we were covering the lands. We were creating a fertilizer bank. The root systems on the plants are very dense, so you created a situation where you had a lot of vertical movement. If any rain fell, so you aerated the soil a lot better. Soil erosion was at the minimum because you had the plants there on the ground, and it did very well. There was no issues of pest, disease, or anything, and the plants grew well, and we are now harvesting it, as you know, and we're quite happy with the performance. So it can be used. It has better food value than even corn and rice, and so therefore we will be able to use it in stock feeds, and we don't have to grind it because those are the grains. You need to hammer it because it's a small seed. You could actually use it straight in the feed without having to grind it. So I think that all in all, we're quite happy, and we were able now to share this information with you and everyone.
An important parameter in the growing of any crop is the yield that is realized during harvest, this being the first crop of its kind to be grown at TACAMA and the prevailing drought-like conditions. What are the numbers saying? According to Mr. Finance, it's more a question of what the crop means for the soil it is being grown on.
So we would like to get 1.8 tons per hectare, but we got roughly about 1 ton per hectare, which is below. But remember, we actually know that we are dealing with a period of where we had little to no rainfall. So, and remember, the main reason for doing it was not necessarily for the yield, but for the ground cover. The fact that we've gotten fair yield is notable in the first trial, you know. So I think that going forward, I think our intention is whenever there's an opportunity or there's a situation where we can't plant in the second crop in the year, that this rotation of using the millet on all the fields is one that is very important. As you would have seen, we would have planted 3 things. We'd have planted millet, we'd have planted sesame seed, and we would have planted a brachyria species of grass. And all 3 of them were used to do the same thing: create ground cover, fertilizer bank, stopping soil erosion, and creating aeration into the soil for water flow downward.
I wondered at the monetary value of growing a commercial-sized crop of millet in Ghana, albeit under more favorable weather conditions. The TACAMA executive explained.
So the problem is that it is valuable, but it doesn't give you the tonnage per hectare that corn does. So corn will give you 6 tons per hectare. Millet will give you 1.8 to 2 tons per hectare. The two are totally different crops because one needs a lot more fertilizer, one needs a lot less fertilizer. So both can be economically beneficial, but at this point, the reason for using millet is more important as a ground cover if you can't plant a major crop. You know, so obviously to feed something that gives you 6 tons per hectare, you got to use a lot more fertilizer. You know, but I think that the main saving is creating better soil for the next season. And that's what we intend to use it for really. But it has value, it has food value, and it has economic value if we do it right.
Commenting on the cultivation of millet and the ongoing harvest, Agriculture Minister Zulfikar Mustafa says the results realized by TACAMA Gold validates government's focus on diversification and the inclusion of crops such as millet.
I want to say millet is a crop that is very indigenous. The president made a commitment when he visited India that Guyana will start the cultivation of millet. You know, India has been growing this for centuries, and other African countries. And millet is a crop that can withstand the harsh condition. Subsequently to the president's visit to India, they had a millet conference in India, which I attended. The president asked me to attend. And there again we reiterated our commitment that yes, we'll start it. And this is as a result of that visit, that the commitment that the president would have started and would have made to India, started the cultivation of millet, 1,300 acres. And I think that we are seeing very good returns so far. This is the first time in the history of this country that we are cultivating millet. And as I said, that always the president is always on his commitment. Whenever he made a commitment, we are seeing fruition shortly. And the yield is expected to be about 1.8 ton per hectare. Right? We have planted 530 hectare, which is equivalent to 1,300 acres of millet. This is a beginning. There are other interested persons who are looking to go into this cultivation. This will help us also to supplement, not only to people can use it as grain, to use it like how we use in other grains for consumption, but this will also supplement our livestock industry to help us to produce feed for the livestock industry too. So millet will be used mainly to support the livestock feed production in the industry. It also used as a natural fertilizer to soil type in certain areas. So there is a number of multiple uses of millet. And as I said, this is only the beginning. And we'll see the condition now that we are experiencing in Guyana are conditions that are experienced in certain parts in India and Africa on a constant basis. So if you notice, posted on the President's Facebook page and other government information agencies. So as I said, that we are now moving in leaps and bounds, not only in the traditional crops, but this is a new addition of planting millet. We started corn and soya, we started the high value crops, now we got into millet production. So Guyana is moving, Guyana is leading the process, the revolution taking place in the agriculture sector.
Sesame seeds are what you find on your burgers at any of those fast food outlets. There is sesame oil, etc. And it's all usually imported. According to Mr. David Finance, sesame seeds can be considered a high-value crop, mainly for export to countries such as India that will pay a premium price.
So the sesame seed was the first time we tried it. The sesame seed is the same seed that you see on your burger bun if you go to a fast food restaurant. They use it for oils as well, and you know, so they use it in cuisine in India especially. So we're very happy with the performance of that as well, and we'll be harvesting that in a short time. So we intend to, what we plan to do is, because we don't have a processing facility here for sesame seed, we will actually be sending that back to Brazil for us to process it there and then possibly sending it on to India. We will retain samples here for for us to see if there are opportunities locally to sell some of it, maybe even to the fast food restaurants and even through the Indian linkages that we have through Guyana, that we could probably send it over time only from here. But it grew well. It's a very short crop in terms of height. Has some beautiful flowers that come out when it's flowering, and it needs very little rain and very little fertilizer. So it's a hardy crop, and we actually hope to be able to do more sesame seed as well in the future. It's very valuable. It's very valuable. I don't have the numbers for you, but sesame seed is one of the higher price grain crops that we could produce. So it's something very interesting to us, and obviously we have to get it right first. And once the linkage is to the major market, which is India, once that linkage is there for us, we'll exploit it as much as we can.
TACAMA Gold comprises local businesses, and one Brazilian investor has been operating in the TACAMA savannas for just over 2 years. I asked Mr. Fernandes to describe these past 2 years of endeavor by the company and give us an outlook for the next crop of corn and soybean.
So I think that we've done very well. We obviously in the beginning of especially in agriculture, your major costs are getting the lands prepared to be able to plant. So those scenarios were a little challenging in the beginning, and then once the infrastructure was put in place and we were able to acquire the necessary equipment, could see as you visit, you could see how much more work has been done, and that is mainly done in preparation for this season. We think that this season, once the rain is as good as is predicted by the Hydromet office, that we will have, for the first time, we'll do 2,000 hectares, 5,000 acres in one crop, 1,900 hectares in soybean minimum, and 100 hectares in corn. Because we still testing the corn, but the soybean obviously fixes nitrogen, which will help corn crops in the future. And we think that this year is a year that we will see now. This is the beginning of the third year, and I think that at this point we will see where all the hard work put in before now comes to fruition, and we benefit in September from a good crop.